presents its books to the portfolio committee for this. And this process entails annual plans in 3-year annual cycles, as well as a 5-year strategy plans. That's the first component. They also present actual performance as well as expenditure. And they also deal with highlights of material deviations. Now remember that these annual reports are now matters of public reports out there, public channel. But these reports, they also are inclusive of the Auditor General reports. Now here's the question. Is that in the reports presented by the Secretariat, there's no such a thing as 30 million rands that appears in either your annual financial statements, your annual reports that have been presented to Parliament here. Now, how come it is only the city press that knows this, and not Parliament? And Parliament couldn't pick this thing up. And how come it is the city press that can pick up this, and not the Auditor General, amongst other things? And the Auditor General comes to Parliament, presents books of the Civilian Secretariat of Police that do not include the 30 million. But somebody within the city press then knows that there was this 30 million that was paid out to aid the campaign, for example. Now, it would also be interesting, amongst other things, to look at the budget scheme. At the time when the local tax took place, the annual budget for public participation in programs within the Civilian Secretariat of Police was not more than 6 million rands. But at the time when the xenophobic tax took place, the balance of that budget stood at 1.5 million. So we've been told by the City Defense that out of 1.5 million, we paid 30 million. Now, your basic arithmetic support just simply do not happen, because it's not possible to get 30 million rands out of 1.5 million, for example. But suppose these deviations of this magnitude could have taken place. That would have been quite upset and quite abnormal in the sense that we would be talking about quite some significant percentage of the civilian secretariat budget committed to just simply one unit. But if that were to happen, that would place the institution on a serious collision course with the Public Finance Management Act. And considering the size of the total budget, such a comparatively considerable transaction could therefore never escape the portfolio committee deliberations. And therefore, to assert that the Secretariat through its public participation program could pay out of less is either a ridiculous proposition and essentially nothing else but deliberate lies. The second area of assertion is that I signed off the committal of 30 million rands to Dr. Nathi Nhleko. And what the article doesn't say is to show us as to where is this document where the minister signed off 30 million rands. But also just for the benefit for all of us here, ministers are not administrators. So there's no way you have a minister sign off the Commission of Serious Resources of State to the benefit of either a particular institution and or individual someone. It's just simply impossible. I mean, that's the work for administrators as well as accounting officers and so forth. Even they, and in the execution of such activities, they are guided by what the law requires, what the legal prescriptions require, and what policies require. So there is no such signing off as alleged by the publication in the 61st in this particular instance. Now, it is said that the Minister of Police has gone all out to raise the charges against Mr. Nathi. And what is conveniently being forgotten here are two things. One, what is the actual issue that is being dealt with? And it's a case that most of you as newspaper houses wrote about long before I was in for the question of the allegation status and what happened and what transpired. Conveniently, we want to forget that now. But also the second area that is being forgotten is that there is a constitutional court decision and a law. Now, and the question of the constitutional court and the law comes in the sense that it's now defined by how the constitutional court read section 17DA 3 and 7 of the DPCI Act into the IPID Act, which in essence said it is Parliament, it is for Parliament to decide on the matters of discipline regarding the executive director of government. So, if what this means is that if there are allegations of transgressions of whatever nature, all what the minister has got to do is to approach Parliament, to report to Parliament what has transpired, or what would have transpired, and then it is for Parliament to then decide how we would want to deal with of such nature. Now, as for the criminal charges, that's for the national prosecution. Absolutely nothing to do with me. Now, of course, I'm restating this point, that these are the points that are known to all of us, except that we conveniently do want to forget when we want to write stories such as the story written by City President Sunday. Because everybody knows that it's for criminal cases. The police don't go there. It's for the national prosecution authority to do research. But also the process itself being before Parliament itself, it's for Parliament to decide how it is going to deal with that. Now, I therefore would not want to go back to the issues that we have dealt with before insofar as the issue of the relations. Safe to say that there will be something fundamentally wrong with us as South Africans, or any one of us with any different sort of portfolios, any occupation in the social sphere, for example, that we would want to turn and look the other way and turn a blind eye to transgressions, allegedly, that in a sense begin to impede on the dignity of the human being, and particularly the dignity of our victims. I'm specific about this precisely because there has been this concept that whether it is by what we design or by our reaction in action, that if lines have been affected to the extent that they have been reported, for example, they're just simply cheap. So we can ignore those things. and then began to allege all sorts of other issues amongst other things, including allegations of ulterior motives, for example. And it begs the question that if you have allegations of this seriousness, it is in the best interest of the South African public and humanity in general to get to the bottom of what must be transparent so that we all know if there is anybody to be held accountable or some people to be held accountable for what happened. So be it, but also if there is nobody to be held accountable, there will be nobody to be held accountable. But the process must be allowed to unfold, to deal with the issues at hand, as opposed to a situation where allegations are there and are not tested, and we are saying, no, but there is a process that has got to be followed to test the allegations, and all efforts are being made to ensure that such a process doesn't take place. And I think that is a disservice to humanity. Now, the Civilian Secretariat for Police Service, guided by the Memorandum of Understanding between the Central and Indonesia, in relation to, as I said, that there are 3 areas that we collaborated upon: the campaign conceptualization, communications and marketing, and program and project coordination. So what has been reported in our books as well as to this institution is that during that period, the Civilian Secretariat paid 384,000 in relation to the areas that we identified, for example, largely the some communication and so forth in relation to the anti-xenophobia campaign. The budgeted amount, as we had said, in the Civilian Secretariat for Police for public participation in that financial year could not have covered the alleged 30 million rands because essentially the entire annual sort of budget for public participation is not more than 60 million rands. And of course we had stated that there was only 1.5 million left in the budget, and therefore it's ludicrous to suggest that we could pay 30 million rands out of 1.5 million. The question is, in the light of what has been written about on Sunday and alleged by citizens, what is it that the Minister has done? The first one, that this matter has been reported to the President and appraising him on the key issues at play. And it's up to the President to then decide in terms of how this matter has got to be dealt with. But we have also written to the Office of the Public Protector to investigate such a matter, as it can't just be left hanging without being investigated in terms of what actually transpired and what these allegations are. The accounting officer, in other words, the acting secretary in the Civilian Secretariat for Police Service, is engaging the services of the Public Service Commission and is written to the Public Service Commission to investigate the matter in the interest of good governance and accountability. Now remember that if, for an example, the acting secretary or anybody, the Civilian Secretariat, was put under unbearable pressure by, let's say, for example, ourselves as the executive authority, the administrator still has a duty to adhere to principles of good governance and accountability. And in this instance, an institution such as the Public Service Commission should then be activated to look into such matters. Now, lastly, clearly the relationship between Indomie and the Minister of Police is managed in line with the policy principles of government and existing memorandum of understanding. And that the relationship itself between the partnership between the civilians in the planet for police and in the women. There's nothing absolutely untoward about it. And that the work done together with in the women has added value in ensuring that outbreak of xenophobic attacks was contained and that the We Are One humanity campaign was relevant towards this settlement. Lastly, is that whilst we are not the media plays in keeping the public service accountable and generally keeping the people of South Africa informed, we, however, note with concern instances of untruthful and incorrect stories which are not based on facts, as well as the flouting and violation of the principle of fair reporting. Now, what we would have expected, for example, is that if you write a story, you base it on facts, but you also put your facts right across. If you say there was a sign of produce the sign of blindness that says this is what the minister signed of a state million, for example, to the benefit of the sovereigns. Together with many allegations that are asserted therein. So clearly, the failure to produce just even a shadow of evidence towards the claims that have been made in Senate, I think it's been unfair and disingenuous. And that, ladies and gentlemen, we remain committed in our resolve to be, firstly, in our resolve in the fight against crime, but also in our resolve to ensure that the work that we do, we have got to be committed to it for the benefit of South Africans as a whole. So I would actually add that for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Nhleko. Thank you very much. So I'll just take a first round of questions, and also the pictorial indicators when there are questions, and I'll simply request that the ladies and gentlemen introduce themselves in brief, and then get on with it. Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll take that this is in Cape Town. You start today.
Good afternoon, Minister Nathi from Bloomberg. Could you please just explain what you are going to ask the Office of the Public Protector to investigate? Is it the learning contract or something else? So just if you can clarify that for me, please. And secondly, please explain why you're holding this whole press briefing, and because it's only one publication that you seem to be sort of aiming at. And secondly, will you be taking any kind of legal action against the publication if you have, as you could say, the stories are untrue? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please don't forget to introduce yourself, ladies and gentlemen. The second, please, Yusuf. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Minister. Minister, given that the NPA dropped the charges against Mr. McBride, presumably because they felt they wouldn't be able to prove the case, on what basis would you expect Parliament to come to a different conclusion? Thanks.
Thank you very much. We go ahead.
Shaman President from the African News Agency. I understand the Concord and Parliament declares to hold a disciplinary hearing or whatever, and that time is absolutely what is the legal status of this McBride at the moment, in your view?
The last one for this round of the questions. Thank you very much.
Minister SABC, can you please explain what you mean when you say what is long forgotten, what is being dealt with, the litigation happened long before you were alive? Because I clearly remember in a committee, I came to you and I asked you, why are you dealing with this litigation happened so long ago? And you said to me, I'm going to have to ask the previous minister because he didn't deal with that matter. So even though it long before you were married, because when you were a minister, that the situation only started being long with the current clinic.
Thank you very much for this first round of questions. And I go over to the Minister, Honourable Minister. Thank you.
No, maybe let me start with you, with the last question, Madam Brad. Firstly, when I say that the nature of the relationship and some kind of it's all about what happened between 2010 and 2011. And there were investigations as well that was done during that particular period. And of course, and all I'm saying is that most of you here, you wrote about that issue. And there were even public announcements and public sort of appearances, for instance, that were made from all sorts of different parties about that matter. And all I'm saying is that we now choose to pretend as though that never happened. And I'm saying that can't be correct. For any one of us, whether is it yourselves in the media, in the newspapers and so forth, to pretend as though that's nothing that happened. It would be incorrect. Equally, it would be incorrect that you come in as a new minister and you find reports on the table of issues of allegedly such transgressions unfinished. And then pretend as though, no, it doesn't matter because they happened at the time when you were not there. And so it goes. Now, it's a critical matter that needed to be dealt with. And all I was saying to you at the time, when I also appeared before the portfolio, was saying they found that there were these particular issues, and I had to work on these particular issues and so on, precisely because they were there. And so there was a whole host of a different set of I think a whole range of allegations that were associated with it and so on. Is that we want to behave as though these issues never took place, and that can't be a correct attitude altogether and so on. So that's the issue in relation to this. Of course, if you were to ask me about some other nitty-gritties in terms of how the investigations were conducted around this matter and so forth, when I was not there, I would not be able to give you adequate answers to that because it would involve a particular area when I wasn't a part of this particular portfolio, for example. Now, Bloomberg, when am I asking the public to investigate? It's a serious allegation that you have a minister that signed off 30 million rands. It's a serious allegation. You can't not have that for the not be investigated. Because what if it were true for the employment? You commission public funds to the tune of about 8 million for your private interests. What if that was true? Surely someone must be held accountable for it. So it becomes important that that matter is got to be followed now. So why this conference now? That's an interesting question. Because it's the city trust that wrote this. You say it's a publication, no, they're all city trusts that wrote this particular story. Now, the question here is that there have been also a number of follow-ups from different media houses about that particular story. What's your comment about what city press says you have done? and so on. Now, socially, these matters have got to be clarified once and for all. And of course, all sorts of comments that also get thrown in and about, for example, in your social media space and so on. So it is to the benefit of the South African public to have proper clarification and facts put across. So the fact, amongst other things, that I'm putting across is that it is not possible to pay out 30 million out of 1.5 million. It's not possible. It is also not possible that you let a minister signing off 30 million. A minister not being an administrator. It is not possible. So these are the things that have got to be clarified out there. Because I'm sure that before you came here, why do I always call you Bloomberg?
The company is called Bloomberg.
Yeah, because one day when you change your one day you change your employer and put it in Bloomberg. I'm saying it's quite essential and critical that these matters have got to be clarified, because certainly I'm sure that before coming over here, you really believe that 30 million story yourself. Yeah, just
Legal action.
No, I'm coming to that. Why am I interested to know as to what steps on what? The legal action or whatever. I don't think I'm there yet about this question. And I prefer not to comment about the legal action or any other that I want to tell you about this particular matter, just where it is. Surely if there are steps that I will take, I think you certainly know. Mr. Jones. I'm always trying to caution people that we shouldn't speak for courts, because courts, they speak for themselves. For an example, you say that the NPA dropped charges because it's Senate, that whatever it said and so on, I think to the effect that there are no, what did you say?
I said presumably because they didn't feel that would be able to prove the case, but I think.
But the state, presumably, that's the issue that I'm taking up with you. They say presumably. Now, and I'm saying these matters are straightforward because they're matters of public record. So you don't speak for your court. The matter of public record read into the record of the court itself as to why the NPA withdrew charges, not because it said they are not willing. The prosecutor in the matter referred to issues of fear and intimidation by the homicide of witnesses, for example. And that's there in the court record. So you can't then say, presumably because it said it's not available, because that's essentially your interpretation. And I think I would advise anybody, myself included, that if a court decides in a particular matter and it states the reason, let's stick to the reason in terms of what the court would have said and be factual about it and so on. Now, I don't want to talk about the question of the prejudice in terms of what the Constitutional Court essentially decided. You're saying you're soliciting my view. Now, what's this? You want me to give any interpretation to that. Now, for me, the best option in this instance would be that I would make that question is a question to pose to the lawyer. For instance, what's the application of the Constitutional Court decision, the prescribed period of 20 days, and the fact that it has transpired and so forth? I think that's a debate and argument that can be dealt with by lawyers. Now, we would know, though, that part of this matter, and of course the issue of how the court dealt with the question of the withdrawal of the charges in this particular instance, are matters that have taken and tabled with Parliament, and Parliament has decided to put the particular process in motion. I see that today's NTC refers this matter to the Portfolio Committee on police to deal with. And I think the rest really can simply be dealt with at that particular level. Yeah, I think Bloomberg, I always forget his name. Paul. Okay.
3 bullets, please.
Why do they like your name when they seem to be amused by the fact that your name is Paul? Right.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you to the journalists who have asked those questions. Our colleagues in Victoria, do we have any questions there? Okay. We don't seem to have any.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Minister. Barry Bateman, Eyewitness News. My first question relates to the issue which was asked by a colleague in Cape Town, the withdrawal of the charges by the NPA. Now, I was there that particular day, and I don't recall anybody saying that there was fear and intimidation by the witnesses. It was, however, stated that the witnesses were unwilling to come and testify, and among those witnesses was the actual author of that month's report, Attorney Sandile July. So even the author of the report was unwilling to come and testify on this particular matter. What exactly are you going to be basing your case against McBride in the rendition matter when this actually gets to Parliament? My second question relates to also weekend reports and relates to Robert McBride. And this relates to an affidavit which was accompanied by recordings which were submitted to IPID. In these recordings, a Hawks official tells a witness, he cites your name as the Minister of Police as giving instructions to investigate McBride in relation to a 2007 attempted murder case of Marco Singh. There's concern, either you're giving the instructions, that's the one side, or there is somebody citing your name to carry out certain activities within the Hawks. What is your response to that? Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Anybody else in Victoria? Okay, let's move back to Cape Town. Hello. Okay, let's... yeah. Do you want to say something?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Bateman, it is always useful, this question about the withdrawal and was in court and so on. It's always useful to rely on a court record as opposed to your recollection. For an example, if you would have seen our submissions to Parliament, we attached the actual court record. So it's not just what we think must have been said or our recollection in one form or another and so on. The actual record, the actual court transcript itself. So I think it's safer that way. It's safer that way. Because many of us, you can be sitting in court, but your mind is dealing with so many other things, writing a story and later listening to court processes amongst other things, and therefore miss certain things. So it's better to rely on the court record itself. Now, I heard about this allegation of myself as the minister giving instructions to the Hawks to investigate some charges relating to 2007 and whatever and so forth. Now, I do not know why I would want Mr. Nathi to be investigated in the first instance. I mean, if you look at it this way, how can a minister just walk up to an investigator and say, yeah, you, I want you to investigate, I'm trying to investigate a call from Bloomberg, for example. I mean, it just hasn't been really, but also the other thing is that operationally, it's not in the purview of any minister, for example, of police, that you go to an investigator of, I'm sure it's I don't know, an investigator could sometimes be, I think, a colonel or a user, that go all the way and locate this particular investigator and say to this investigator, I want you to go and investigate so. It just doesn't make sense. So, and I hear your angle also the other question, whether is it a case of someone who just, throwing in my name. I don't know. I have not even seen that particular affidavit that is claimed to be there, that have asked somebody to investigate some crime for something that happened in 2007. In any case, being here now in 2016, having started in this portfolio in 2014, why am I interested in something that happened in 2007 when I was somewhere else in terms of work? It was probably somewhere else in terms of work, and so it relates to nothing about the work that I do. So why would I have this kind of interest from the government to investigate him for something that happened, must have happened in 2000? That it's not possible that the operation and the minister said to the minister of police would just walk up to the investigator and say to the investigator, I want you to investigate so. It just doesn't happen. So, for me, it doesn't make sense, really, that I must have given instructions to somebody to do that. But nevertheless, I suppose people also have the right to make all sorts of criminal accusations for whatever ends that they want to pursue. It's really up to them. But again, allegations such as this must also be subjected to a test. It must really be tested. So I would hope at some point you are able to reach that particular point. So that somebody can tell me rightly in my face and say, you instructed me to go and investigate so and so for whatever the objectives and the reasons were, and so on. And then I will also be told this to, if that's what I did, what is it that would have happened to the operational commanders, for example, who then deal with the issues of investigations on a day-to-day basis and perhaps issue instructions about cases to be investigated and whatever and so forth. What happened to them or where were they? And so on. So that would be quite interesting. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. This will be the last round of questions because we've got 5 minutes before the Minister checks off on an engagement in Parliament. I'll start with this gentleman and say and where you come from the Minister table. Now, I'll it around. Take 4.
My name is also Paul, I'm from News 24.
Wow. That's what must be.
And then the lady,
You are the risk of more Bloomberg.
go ahead.
Oh, he starts.
Yeah. But you have questions, Paul?
Okay, so if you're going around. Yes, Minister, I just have 3 questions. The first is, we understand the reasons for why you want us to be investigated. This is regarding the 30 million rand case. why did you go to the public protector and not the press ombudsman? It seems to me like it's a situation of press reporting versus the ministry and not necessarily a civilian issue. The second question I have is, the city press report cites that your girlfriend is the head of the NGO. I'd just like to know, is that also so false? I know that the memorandum of understanding was signed before you became minister, but I'd just like to know if you ever felt that it could be perceived as a conflict of interest for the ministry to have an agreement with her. And then lastly, the new Inspector General has been, he has previously testified on behalf of the police department, Mr. Isaac Nhleko. We just want to know what relationship you as the minister have with him, and if that too is a problem for his role going forward as an oversight watchdog for the public.
Thank you very much, Paul. Let's have the next question, please. Go ahead, Minister. Go ahead.
Minister, I'm asking for you to inform.
I'm sorry, I was just silly. I couldn't get you.
I'm asking for you to inform. Just to recover Paul's question, can you just, in light of the clarification you've given now, can you just exactly tell us what is your relationship with David? Yeah. And then, just in your term as minister, is this the first time that you are, approaching the public protector or written to the public protector? And I believe.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's move on. Go ahead.
Just questions. Are you getting the portfolio committee of these things too? We're going to be on 7. And then also, you seriously said that you don't speak to Mr. McBride, you guys don't have a relationship. How does that affect the work? You not speaking, how does it, or how could it potentially affect the work of IPID?
Thank you very much. The last round, the last question.
Good afternoon, Mr. Board and EAC. My question is one that was asked earlier, I think, if I can just ask like this. Mr. Bright had already said that this is an useful process, because only now, the last recourse you have is to ask for the benefit of agreement, then give you power to suspend it because you failed the court. But so that when it comes to processes, it gives you last-ditch effort to try to remove from agreement application basis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr.
No, thank you very much.
Oh, sorry. No,
That's fine.
No, you can go ahead. Okay, thank you.
I hope I did not intimidate you by my looks and
I'm a citizen. I'm good.
One protected goes to the press ombudsman. I would, I suppose that I would approach the press ombudsman if I had got to complain about the slander that was written by citizens, for example. There's a specific allegation and it's kind of threatening it. So that matter, surely it's not within the mandate or the scope of the press ombudsman, for example, to do that. The press ombudsman can only deal with complaints in relation to the issues of media and press conduct and so forth. But in this instance, it's not the issue of how the city press wrote that I'm taking up with the public protector. I'm taking up the specific issue, the allegation. The allegation is I signed a $30 million rents. Okay. Now, the question of I police at some point. The question here is that surely in the workers, the police on a day-to-day basis and so forth, they will, at one point or another, areas where we are able to collaborate and work together with the Inspector General, whomever the Inspector General will be, because these are government institutions and so on. We could possibly at some point also be subjected to the work of the Inspector General in so far as the work that we do, from one of our duties. So it could be that. So the relationship factor will always be governed by first institutional alignment. The portfolio of policy, so that would be what was the line? You can't have, I mean, as I said, I think I said this thing earlier, people have got, I suppose, the right to express an opinion and also engage. Carries in hand the right to allege. So you allege an abuse of the process. Right? So that's just an allegation. I don't know how a process such as the one, for instance, is not can be used. I just simply do not know how. But the fact of the matter is, it is always better that if we have allegations, just like in this particular instance, there are allegations that have been made that I signed off 30 million rands process to university. Now, that's an allegation, and that allegation is just want to be tested. And of course, testing an allegation requires the process. And that's where my issue has been that an allegation does not mean guilt by any measure, for example. It only means it is an allegation, but it's an allegation that has got to be subjected to a particular process, and that's basically it. And part of my message in the entire sort of debate and the issues around this particular matter has been to say, I do not know why, and I still don't understand why anyone would have a problem with a process that has got to establish whether there is some degree of truth to a particular sort of claim and or allegation, or no truth. So that's what a processing at disciplinary level is about. It doesn't mean that you're guilty. You're not guilty of anything. So it's the same approached by one of our members who can say, no, next door to where you live, there was a burglar. Then the question is, where you want the burglar to take place? I don't know why you want to think that question is associated with the fact that somebody is saying that they're creating a burglar when they're not. It's just simply an inquiry, I suppose, an inquiry. But also in this instance, is something that says, here are the allegations that have been made. Now, these allegations, they've got to be tested. So that, indeed, if you are innocent, you are innocent. But also, if you are not innocent, of course, then we have that accountable. And that's the principle of accountability. That's how it comes in. And I like this point that you raised, because even at the time when the issue of the Constitutional Court judgment came out, it's interesting how the interpretation and the spinning that was expected around it. And my sense was that people wrote and spoke about something that they knew nothing about. In fact, they had not hardly read the Constitutional Court judgment itself. Now, the Constitutional Court judgment did not deal with the rights and demands of the case. Never did. What the Constitutional Court dealt with was that, yes, we accept that the Minister used Section 6, Subsection 6 of the IPID Act, in other words, the ballot law, to effect suspension. However, we, as the Constitutional Court, we have a problem with the law, not with what the Minister did, with the law. And therefore, because we have a problem with the law of that kind, we are then reading Section 17DA, subsection 3 and 7 into the space of Section 6, subsection 6. Now, Section 17DA is imported from the DPCI Act, that instead of you relying on Section, you as a Minister relying on Section 6 of this body law, passed by Parliament, we are putting aside your Section 6, but then instituting a Section 17DA from the DPCI and that's where the issue of the parliamentary procedure then comes in. So it has nothing to do with all other people, not all other people. I think others will just copycatting really. Politicians, of course, they say whatever they want to say because they're political. But I don't expect that of the Chinese, for example, to start suggesting that going on this matter was thrown out of court and whatever, without having read the judgment, because the judgment never dealt with merits and demerits of the case. But political people, for their political reasons, they will give a personal interpretation to things. But I think ours is to deal with fact, and the fact is, the court had a problem, not with the steps taken by the minister, but with the with the provisions of a valid law that the minister used and so forth. And it is for that reason that it then ordered, I think in the whole range of orders that it issued, and take to one, that Parliament within 24 hours, 24 months, 24 months, right? Parliament needed to amend that particular law, the defect, as they saw from a constitutional point of view. Now, I think the second area was then to say that the suspension that the minister had issued was to remain in validity for 30 days to give Parliament an opportunity to decide whether or not to proceed with the inquiry and so on. So Parliament was to decide between two things. There was no third way. Two things. Decide whether you want to do this thing or not to do it. So you can't decide not to decide because there's no such a decision. For example. So you decide whether you want to do this thing or not do it. So that was the creation by the Constitutional Court order, amongst other things. So I'm saying the host of the orders that we issued, the two critical ones for me were these two, amongst other things. So I think it would help to get it out of our hands, but that's why I was saying with the docs that the most unfortunate thing is that we tend to speak for the courts, and yet the courts are able, enough to speak for themselves. For instance, in this particular instance, there's not expressed a position on that particular matter. I'm not going to talk about the relationship between myself and Dr. Nathi Nhleko, because I just don't see how or what it then is to anyone. My feelings are my feelings, your feelings are your feelings, and so on and so forth. It doesn't matter that I get.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we would like. Yes.
No, I also prefer. Yes, I'm sorry that I forgot to respond to this. I know that you don't like me, but we have what is that? They just simply don't like me, but it's okay. I'm fine with it. But the point here is that I would also prefer not to say anything about it because that matter forms part of the process that Parliament is now embarking upon. I mean, the question of the employment relationship and how that is likely to affect any institution or whatever institution and so forth. I think it's a matter that can only be dealt with and be properly ventilated before the Parliament. In other words, at the level of the parliament processes.
Is that next week?
So asking whether I don't know, but I don't know what I hear that the portfolio committee is sitting next week. But whether or not I'm invited to it. Oh, okay, so it's been an invitation. Thank you very much for advising me that I should be attending the portfolio committee.
What's supposed to do?
Oh, yeah. So I'm really getting old. No, it's not the first time. It's not the first time. You know, even before I came over here as the Minister of Police, I was the Director General of the Department of Labor. Between 8 years, I can't remember, but I think it was between 2011, 2011 to essentially 2014. Now, one of the allegations that I raised was that I had stolen 2 million rands. And that allegation was passed by some other very important people in the state. So I wrote to the Parliament and said, look, there is this allegation. This allegation says I've stolen 2 million rands. So please investigate this. I also wrote to the Special Investigation Unit at the time and I said, there is also this issue. Can you look into it? Of course, the Special Investigation Unit is a different instrument, by the way. It can only be activated by the President. But in that particular period, I did approach the public protector and there was never a response, either to translate or a statement to then say indeed we are then going to investigate this particular claim and or allegation against him. That was the way that. So if you ask me to then say is this the first time? No, it's not the first time. This is actually not the second time. It's just the 2 different eras. One time was at the time when I was Director General in the Department of Labor. Now, Minister of Police, and a different sort of matter in the context of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. The session is over, ladies and gentlemen, and if you are aware, the Minister of Parliament. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, our colleagues. Victoria.
Thanks for signing the therapy.
All of that.